Welcome to Palestine Files. A new report has highlighted the alarming extent that Palestine is shrinking in territory and the increasingly expanding Israeli occupation. An occupation that doesn't just expand its brutal military presence, but also brings along more and more settlers to squat on the indigenous land of another people. I'm your host, Wissam Bahrani. On this episode, we're going to focus on where Palestine once was, where it once stood before Israel's inception in 1948, where it belongs, and what's left of Palestine today, and what's left of Palestinians today. The Israeli Prime Minister has expressed confidence that the United States will allow Israel to go ahead with annexing the West Bank within 2 months. Benjamin Netanyahu described US President Donald Trump's so-called deal of the century, announced in January, as a promise to recognize Tel Aviv's authority over settlements in the occupied West Bank. Netanyahu says, "A couple of months from now, I am confident that that pledge will be honored." Palestinians have expressed outrage at Israel's plans. All Palestinian factions have also rejected Trump's initiative.
طبعا خايفين يعني إذا ضمها إحنا يعني شو يعني ممكن إنه ما يظلش الواحد قطعة أرض إلا قدام داره. ممكن انهم يرحلوا.
هسه ما بنعرف شو مخبرنا مثلا، او هو مثلا نتنياهو بيطبق اللي بيقولوا عنه قانون الاسرائيلي مثلا علينا او لا، ما بنعرف. احنا هسه انا بالنسبه لي مش متوقع الحقيقه، مش متوقع الضبط، ماني متوقعه.
هذه أصعب شغل، أصعب فترة، الفترة الرئاسة هذه ال4 سنوات القادمة. ليش؟ هي مش مربوطة بس فيه هو لحاله، كمان المجموعة تبعته بدها تيجي من أكبر المتطرفين.
المجتمع الإسرائيلي كله يمين، سواء هو نتنياهو أو جنتس، كلهم بيتسابقوا على انهاء القضيه الفلسطينيه وقتل الشعب الفلسطيني وانهاء ما تبقى من القضيه الفلسطينيه، وكلنا بنعرف انهم موافقين اثنين على صفقه العصر، سواء هذا او هذا او كافه الاحزاب الموجوده. ما راح يغير شيء على ارض الواقع.
طول نتنياهو موجود في الحكم مستحيل يزول الاحتلال ومستحيل يصير سلام، لانه زلمه رجل حروب وما بحب السلام وما بده السلام، ومعروف السلام كلمتين تنتين، شعبين إسرائيلي وفلسطيني جنبا من الجنب.
It comes as the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics has issued a grim report which reveals that Israel occupies more than 85% of the historical land of Palestine. This amounts to about 27,000 square kilometers. According to the report, the Palestinians retain just 15%. The study also revealed that by the end of 2019, the global Palestinian population stood at 13 million, of which some 5 million live under military occupation in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Almost 1.6 million live in pre-1948 Palestine. Around 6 million live in Western Asia, with the majority in Syria, Lebanon, Egypt and Jordan. 727,000 are in the wider diaspora around the world. When it comes to Palestine, the issue, quite naturally, is in the hearts of many on social media. Here is what some of you guys have posted. Stein with Said, who says, "Fear is the written fate of Israelis as they know that they are murderers and illegal in the region." And Sarah Portman says, "Israel has occupied at least 85% of Palestine and trying to hit 100% by normalization relationships. The main fault is with Arab countries changing their policy and betrayed oppressed Palestinians." A valid point there. Bonjour à tous says, I'm not the best at French, by the way. He says, "One day soon, these rich Arab countries will be part of Greater Israel. They will then regret why they didn't unite against Israel and help the oppressed Palestinians, but then it will be too late." A very strong point there. Chris, meanwhile, says Israel is Jewish-occupied Palestine. War crimes have been a daily occurrence against the Palestinian people, but the Western world turns a blind eye. Because of wrongdoings to their ancestors, it seems the current generation have a free pass to steal, destroy and murder, he says. And moving on to Zahra Tavakulian, who says while the world is occupied by the spread of coronavirus epidemic, the Israeli forces disallow the Palestinian detainees from having detergents and antiseptics. Israel is a barbaric occupation overwhelmed by racism and brutality. Who is going to save Palestine? Someone's out there, Zahra. For free speech says occupied Palestine and Gaza are often likened to apartheid South Africa. BDS South Africa, he said. But Palestine and Gaza are similar to occupied Northern Ireland too, a former apartheid state. Israel played a major role in both conflicts. BDS Gaza. That's one viewpoint there. And moving on to our last social post of the day, who's from Sam, who says, "Excuse me, dear, this is not Israel, this is occupied Palestine." Indeed it is, Sam, indeed it is. Now, amid the coronavirus pandemic, our team spoke to Palestinians to get their views about the ever-expanding Israeli occupation of their land.
فكرة بقاء أو إبقاء الاحتلال ل15% فقط من أراضي الفلسطينيين لهم تؤثر بشكل كبير على الحياة. بداية يعني هذه أرض وهي حق للفلسطينيين، واحتلالها يعني يعتبر جريمة وكارثة لأن هذا حق للفلسطيني. وكيف يؤثر مباشرة على الحياة اليومية؟ بداية هذا الأمر يؤثر على الاقتصاد الفلسطيني بشكل كبير. نحن نتحدث عن مئات آلاف الدنومات التي تستغل في مواضيع الزراعة، يتم سرقتها من الفلسطينيين وتقديمها للمستوطنات على مستوى الضفة الغربية.
يعني أعتقد هو ما بقي للفلسطيني إن كان شعب أو كأفراد هو الأرض. يعني القضية الفلسطينية دائما كانت مرهونة بالأرض والمساحة التي يعمل الاحتلال للسيطرة عليها. 15% تعني الفلسطيني لا شيء، لا تعني دولة ولا تعني حدود ولا تعني يعني أي نقطة يمكن الارتكاز عليها لإقامة أي مشروع مستقبلي بالنسبة للفلسطينيين. هذا عدا عن يعني إنه الأرض هي تمثل مصدر للرزق بالنسبة للفلسطينيين. 15% من مساحة الأرض الفلسطينية الحقيقية والتاريخية، هذا لا يعني شيء.
هذا يؤثر على كل مستويات الحياة للفلسطينيين سواء كشخص أو كمجتمع، لأنه إحنا بنحكي عن أراضي غير مستغلة زراعيا. مياه، نحن عندنا في الصيف المياه شحيحة جدا. نتحدث عن حواجز تقسم الضفة الغربية، التنقل، الاقتصاد، البناء. يعني أنا إذا بدي أبني في مكان معين ربما لا أستطيع بسبب سيطرة الاحتلال على ذلك ومنع التراخيص. كل مناحي الحياة متأثرة بذلك، وأهم شيء أن الاحتلال باقي في أرضنا.
المجتمع الدولي هو المسؤول الأكبر لهذه القضية، خاصة أنه هو اللي ابتلانا في هذه البلوى. أعتقد أنه المجتمع الدولي لازم يأخذ قرارات صارمة، وخاصة أن دولة الاحتلال تتصرف وكأنها فوق القانون. وأعتقد أن كل القوانين اللي شرعتها المنظومات الدولية في الأمم المتحدة وغيرها من المؤسسات الدولية الحقوقية أثبتت أنه حق الفلسطيني بأنه يستعيد أرضه، وهذه أرض فلسطينية، ولكن إسرائيل تتعامل بأنها دولة فوق القانون.
Here are some facts and figures related to the occupation. There are, and they're going to come up any minute now, there are 800,000 settlers in occupied West Bank. Israel has implemented road segregation, where Israeli settlers drive on the developed roads, whereas the Palestinians aren't allowed to do so. This while Israel expands the apartheid wall to extend Israel's presence deeper into Palestinian territory. And just one more. Since 2001, Israelis have uprooted more than 1 million, you got that right, 1 million trees. Now, there is so much more to the occupation, but that would mean me standing here until the middle of next week, literally. But this has made headlines around the world. Here is what those reports said. Blaine Coleman is a human rights activist who is committed to increasing public awareness about the Palestinian cause and how the Israeli regime has been treating Palestinians. Mr. Coleman, welcome. I want to ask you about the new report, which shows Palestinians now only inhabit 15% of pre-1948 Palestine. What does this say about current politics?
It's true that Palestinians are really officially confined to only 15% of their land from 1947 historic Palestine. Even in that tiny, cramped 15% of their land, you have to understand that the Israeli military feels quite free to commit all kinds of aggression, murder, and kidnapping, even within that 15% of historic Palestine. Palestinians are not going to get control over even 1 inch of their land until really the apartheid state of Israel is abolished.
Right, we've been through the report. It also emphasizes on the infinite number of aggression by Israeli soldiers and settlers who are protected by soldiers, even when they attack Palestinians. Has Palestine always been under invasion in that case?
As you know, Israeli settlers and soldiers are almost indistinguishable from each other. They are both about committing massive aggressions against the Palestinian people and stealing their land. Now, what is the nature of that action, that joint combined action? It's pretty similar to other colonial settler situations. You don't have to look back as far as the United States massacring the Native Americans and stealing their land with the help of soldiers. You also can look at the situation in Kenya when the British did that to the native people of Kenya in the 1950s in Africa. You can look at what France did to Algeria during roughly the same time. You can look at what Italy did to Libya during the 1920s and 1930s. So Israel is a colonial settler state which exists by committing massive violence against the Palestinian people. That is its nature.
Right. Now, finally, Palestinians have been asked to stay indoors by their authorities because of the COVID-19 outbreak. How have Israeli soldiers and settlers taken advantage of this?
Now, it's true that Palestinians are being confined to their homes because of the COVID-19 outbreak. Right. And it's true that Israeli soldiers and settlers are taking full advantage of that fact to try and steal more land and commit more violent aggression against the Palestinian people. This is not a new thing. Netanyahu has loudly complained that Israel failed to take advantage of the 1989 protests in China when the whole world was focused on Tiananmen Square. Netanyahu has complained that Israel, according to him, should have committed mass expulsions against the Palestinian people in order to steal even more land from the Palestinians during 1989. So you see, it's not a new thing for Israel to take advantage of world events in order to steal more land from the Palestinian people. Not a new thing.
On that note, Blaine Coleman, a human rights activist, thank you very much indeed for joining Palestine Files. It's time to take a short break, but stay where you are because we'll be right back. The Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics has also revealed new data on the Israeli occupation until the end of the year 2019. There are 69 Israeli settlers for every 100 Palestinians living in occupied Jerusalem, Al-Quds. There are 21 Israeli settlers for every 100 Palestinian residents in the occupied West Bank. Meanwhile, Tel Aviv has set up 600 military checkpoints and barricades at the entrances to Palestinian cities, towns and villages, restricting the movement of Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. It is these measures which Israel takes that intensify its occupation, which in turn contributes to the illegal expansion of Israel. Critics describe Israel as a settler entity, and with any settler entity, expansionism is key to growth. This is a pattern that has been ongoing since 1948.
المجتمع الدولي هو الذي زرع الكيان وهو المسؤول عن إزاحته، هو الذي أعطى الكيان فرصة العنصرية والسادية والقتل الممارس وعليه أن يحاكموا.
Meanwhile, the regime receives political backing from Washington and military aid to the tune of $3.8 billion in 2019. This American political, financial and military backing continues amidst the coronavirus pandemic. Welcome back. The founder of the organization Within Our Lifetime, United for Palestine, Nardine Kiswani, joins us now. Ms. Kiswani, welcome. Firstly, what's your views on the report by the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics that Palestinians now only live in 15% of the land that was once all Palestine?
So, of course, not only is this unjust and makes no sense, but this has always been the case ever since the United Nations initially partitioned Palestine in 1948, where they gave a larger percentage of the land to incoming Jewish settlers who were, coming to Palestine to colonize it and create the state of Israel, even though their numbers and the population of Jewish people in the area was so much lower than the indigenous population of Palestinians who were forcibly expelled off of their land. And this just exposes the farce of the two-state solution when it comes to current politics and much of the international community pushing for Palestinians to maintain, this false peace, as if Israel wasn't the violent one, and as if Israel wasn't entirely bent on colonizing all of Palestinian land, something that we've known since 1948, which is why we fight against Zionism and ideologies of colonialism.
Right, and we see that even trees, thousands of year-old olive trees, are being a target of destruction across Palestine. Why are trees being uprooted and targeted?
Palestine is a struggle about land, and the destruction of trees and our land represents an attack against our struggle and people. It's not only one of the many ways that settlers attack Palestinian livelihoods and industries, but it's also psychological, attacking something that we are deeply rooted in and connected to. It represents the denial of our roots, heritage, culture, and the theft of our land. It's just one of the many ways that Israeli Zionists use to make life unbearable for Palestinians, especially since many of these trees have been in existence for hundreds of years, planted by our ancestors, something that they want to take away from us.
Okay, Nardine Kiswani, founder of Within Our Lifetime, United for Palestine. Thank you very much indeed for joining the show. Now, Jamal Jum'ah leads the Stop the War campaign, a grassroots movement against Israel's settlements and its apartheid wall in the occupied West Bank. He also raises very interesting points. Take a look.
How we understand as the Palestinians what we are facing is a settler colonialism, which means uprooting the people and replacing them with another people. That's what happened with the Palestinians. 95% of the Palestinian land that occupied in 1948 is controlled by the Israeli occupation, by the Zionist state. Then the West Bank, they start colonizing West Bank exactly the same as they did before 48 and after 48, taking over the Palestinian land by colonizing, which is end up with what we saw now, the geopolitical map, with the controlling around 62% of the West Bank, which is 62% of the 27% that has been left to the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza after the occupation 1948. I consider what's happening to the Palestinian people is an ongoing Nakba. It means that still the Palestinian targeted in their own land, in their cities and their villages. And that was shown very well from the latest expansion of the settlements and the spreading all over the outposts, the colonies, the center of the new colonies that they are putting either in Jordan Valley or Area C and several other Palestinian places. So the settlement project, the colonial project, didn't stop, it's continue. And they are doing it in a very also studied way. It's like to these spreaded points that they are controlling by their own settlers, like one settler is in a hill from one to another, it is meant to control and to take over all the Palestinian land that already belonging to the Palestinian villages that can be of Palestinian resources in the future. So what they are doing is like stripping the Palestinians from their own resources, that they make them live on their own villages, and their mainly villages. Cities is already blocked, but the villages, that most of their land extended in Area C, they are trying to take it over from the Palestinians, so the Palestinians won't left for them anything to depend on their future. With the Palestinian situation now, and with the whole, how we see the world, like any political map of the world now, I think, and it has been proven, the Palestinians have to be united first. And with the wide popular disobedience and popular resistance against all the Israeli measures and steps on the ground that they are doing, this will be the most influential international wide. We are people who's now besieged, we are blocked in our areas, fragmented.
Just to give you an idea, this is a map of Palestine, the green here, 1917. In 1948, when Israel was incepted into the region, Palestine in the green there, as you can see, large chunks of white. All of this white area here has been taken away from the Palestinians by force. Fast forward to 1967, Israel takes even more land, including occupied Jerusalem, Al-Quds. And today, 2020, Israel, the Palestinians rather, are limited to just 15% with these little dots here and there. But Israel being Israel, still not happy. And with settlements expanding in the occupied West Bank, this territory is expected to shrink even further. They literally massacred. So the Palestinians have documented that they now own just 15% of their land. But remember, there is an axis of resistance against Israel. Yes, many are preoccupied with the coronavirus, and Tel Aviv received a couple of confidence-building measures from the current occupants of the White House. But that resistance is more adamant in confronting this apartheid regime than ever before. 15% for now is just a number. It could change. Thank you for watching Palestine Files. See you next week.